Kip, what's up, brother? Great to see you after a long weekend for me. And you were telling me it's probably a long weekend for you as you build your home as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I was working and then you'll appreciate this. I'm sure everybody that's a father's ran into this, but the 4-year-old last night around 10, Dad, my stomach hurts. And so like could not fall asleep. And then I think it was around 1 a.m., sits up in his bed and just spews
spews everywhere.
everywhere. Yeah. And then just it was a rinse and repeat process all
You know
night
what's
long. I'm like,
you know what's
oh,
so
I'm
weird
so tired.
is little humans are so weird. Normal sized humans, big humans are so weird. We're weird. All of us are weird. But have you ever had one of your children come in and you'll be in your bed and they'll run and they're like, "Dad, my stomach hurts. I think I'm gonna go throw up." I'm like, What are you telling me for?"
You're like, run. You're like, get out of here. Go
I
somewhere
said,
else.
"Go to the bathroom." What? I don't understand why you're coming in to alert me. Just go throw up. Like, you don't need to tell
That's
me about it.
funny.
And not only that,
Oh,
they tell you, and I'm like, "Well, go to the bathroom and go throw up." And they'll throw up on the way to the bathroom. I'm like, see, if
yeah.
you would have not come and woken me up, you would have been able to go right there. The other one that always kills me, and I think I had my second did this one time. And I said, "Go to the bathroom. Like, you got to throw up. Go to the bathroom, throw up. It's fine, whatever." He runs in the bathroom. He throws up in the sink. I'm like, "Bro, the sink?
I've got
You
the
couldn't
tub
go."
too, which is kind of gross because then like you have this backlog of junk.
I'm like, "You can't just go literally
uh
12 inches to the left and just throw up in the toilet. Now somebody's
yeah.
got to clean up everything." And so I'm not very empathetic when it comes to puking. I'm like, just go puke. We all puke. It's what
Yeah.
we do. Just go take care of it. Don't alert me. Don't tell. In fact, the less I know about it, the better off the world will be. So just
Yeah.
do it and leave me alone.
Yeah. We eventually had him in the hallway on a towel. And then we had a bowl, and then we're like, all right, buddy, if you have to throw up and you can't make it to the bathroom, here's this bowl. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
same thing. Oh, I'm getting sick. Gets on his hands and knees and just goes all over the floor. And the bowl's like
Bro, the bowl. That's why I
right
gave that
there.
to you.
I was like,
Bodily
oh, but
functions,
he
bodily
finally
fluids.
got the bowl. Yeah.
Did
But
he
it took
good?
like 5 rounds. Yeah.
Bodily functions, that's the one thing I just have little tolerance for. It's like, you little idiot. Like, just don't make it's hard. I get it. It sucks,
Oh,
but don't make everybody else participate in your misery. Okay. Just take care of it. Ugh.
yeah. That's funny. Whew.
Yeah.
So I'm tired. I'm
I
like,
bet,
I think
man.
I may have slept about an hour total. So I'll be
Well, we'll get right into some
worthless.
I'm tired for a different reason. I was going to tell you,
Oh
ask
yeah,
what I
yeah.
did
What
this
was
weekend.
you had a long weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, it was long, but it was good. We went down to Bedros Koulian runs a program called Operation Black Site, and it's
Okay.
in
And how
Southern
is Black
California.
Site different than the project?
It's definitely not as intense. Like,
Okay.
the modern day night project is intense. It Same thing with the Squire program for young men,
Yeah.
super intense. The Squire program's overnight. MDK is I think 3 or 4 days, but it's super intense. This was less intense and more focused on business networking and developing certain skills. So we did some grappling. But the other cool thing about Operation Black Site is they have world class instructors. So Mike Chandler was there teaching the grappling,
Fun.
and
Cool.
Tony Blauer, who a lot of you guys know, the spear system, he
Yeah.
was there. So those two guys, Steve Eckhart, they taught the self defense, martial arts stuff. And then we did a lot of like room clearing, house sweeping, because they built this
Oh,
house
cool.
with catwalks up top so instructors can see how you're moving through the building. And that was taught by Tim Kennedy and other
That's cool.
special forces guys. So like, and the people they bring in are phenomenal. So it was a really cool. Ray Cash Care, of course, Bedros was there, Tim Kennedy, Mike Chandler, some guys that are world class that people unfortunately just don't know about, and maybe at some point they
Yeah.
will. But it was phenomenal, and I was
That's
fortunate enough
cool.
that I was able to bring my two oldest boys down with me. So Yeah, if you guys are interested in a really cool weekend, I'm actually thinking about, and I'll keep this between you and me and the hundreds of thousands of people who will hear this.
I was going to say, do you want to pause really quick?
I'm actually thinking about investing with B and the team down there in that. And what's cool about that is not only will it's an investment, but also we'll be able to use that facility for our own events, which is cool.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that'd be cool.
so stay tuned.
Cool, man. That sounds
Yeah.
fun. That sounds
Yeah,
fun. I think I saw you posted something, I think, because I saw something about, or
I
maybe
don't.
Bedros did a post
Maybe
that I
he
saw.
did. I don't. I may
Yeah,
have
I saw
posted.
something.
I may have reposted in stories. I actually haven't posted on Instagram in quite a while, except for just updates on podcasts. Taking a little bit of hiatus. I'll probably share a little bit more on Facebook and social media and Instagram. Still pretty active. I still jump on and follow people and things like that. But as far as me posting, it's been significantly less. It's been nice actually. So yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Well, we got some good questions. It looks like we're questioning guys from, or I guess they're asking questions of us from the Iron Council. So I went through these and we've got some good ones. Some that I know I'll get fired up about, and some that hopefully I'll give some good insight on.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Our first question is from Pramit Ball. Question for Ryan regarding the transitioning topics in a podcast setting. When I record episodes for my own podcast with a guest, I sometimes find myself using a lot of filler words or okay, now let's talk about, instead of having a natural flow. I found listening more intently creates better jump off points into the next topic, but it's not always a guarantee. Would love to know if you have any insights and tips, if you have any insights and tips.
Oh yeah,
in that regard.
Yes, I am never at a loss for insights and tips. Whether you should accept them or not, that's a different story, but never at a loss
Yeah.
for those things. Yeah, look, I get this when you're, I don't know how long Promit's been podcasting for, but yeah, when you're starting a podcast, it's awkward. You got this microphone in front of your face, you've got a camera in front of you. It just changes the dynamic. But imagine if you're sitting down with a friend at a restaurant, over a drink, at the game, fight nights, golf, like however you guys interact. Would you ask that person a question and then they answer the question? You're like, oh, great. And you write it down. You say, now my next question is, you would never do that.
Yeah.
And if we get to the root of the reason why you wouldn't do that, it's because you care about that person. That's why. You care about what they have to say. You care about their insight. You care about what they might be experiencing or going through. And so it's a genuine level of care. When in a podcast setting, I found that our care for other individuals is diminished relative to the care that we have for our friends because we don't really know those people. And so what are we doing? Well, we're looking to extract value from them. And it's not inappropriate. That is the point of a podcast. If I have you on as a guest, Kip, it's my job to extract value that you have to share, and so I can present that to my audience. But then it diminishes the humanity of it a bit, the humanity of the conversation. And I don't even say I interview anymore. I say I have conversations. And I might go into a podcast with a very rough outline of what I want to talk about or a direction I'd like to go. And I'll let you guys in on a little secret. Sometimes I don't even read the books the authors write. Sometimes I don't really know everything about their programs or their offerings. And I actually do that by design because I want to go into the conversation with an open mind and a whole lot of curiosity about a particular subject. Yeah. But if I read the entire book, then it's like, okay, I got it. It loses some of its curiosity. What were you going to say?
Well, and as me as a listener, you're aligned with me as a listener, right? So you're going to ask the questions that I'm thinking in my mind if I haven't heard of this person before either. Does it make sense?
Yes.
And so that's going to resonate better than if you're like deep diving in some theory of a book that I haven't read yet as a listener of the podcast. And I'm like, what are these guys even talking about? That's not valuable to me, right? To your audience.
A friend of mine, Jordan Harbinger, the Jordan Harbinger podcast, he is a great, I call him conversation, not interviews, conversationalist. You all right, Kip?
Yeah.
Oh, it just, there was like a beep that came up and it looked like you were doing something. So
really?
Sure.
Oh, no, I was just
maybe
grabbing
that's
some more Red Bull. Not that your conversation isn't stimulating
sorry,
enough. I
I'm
just want
boring.
to heighten it even more. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Anyways, Jordan Harbinger, he's a great conversationalist. And one thing that he told me one time is that your audience doesn't have a voice. So you have to be their voice. And you can know that
That's a good
because
way to
I hear
say
from
that.
guys who are like, man, Ryan, I was in the car and you asked this question and I was screaming because I wanted you to ask this other question. You didn't ask it. Or you asked the question and he said something and I didn't believe it. And then you said the same thing. And so I'm so glad you went down that rabbit hole. That's how you know that you're starting to
I like
resonate
that.
with your guest, or excuse me, with your audience. So what I would say is, number one, don't pigeonhole yourself into questions. I would not, as quickly as I could, just get away from pre-scripted questions. Like, I hate these podcasts that ask all their guests the same 10 questions. Well, you don't care about your guest, you don't care about your audience. All you care about is whatever you're producing. Don't do that. Okay, that's not what you
Yeah.
do in a conversation. Get away from that. Number two, well, I think this is part of it. By getting rid of questions, pre-scripted questions, you're allowing yourself to explore things that you wouldn't normally explore. So one thing I've actually tried to do a lot lately with podcast guests is when they say something that either I don't understand or I don't necessarily agree with, I'm going to challenge that a bit. It took me a long time to figure that out, but I don't have to be confrontational, but I do have to ask. If you say something, Kip, and I don't quite
I'm
understand, I'm going
curious.
to say that. Hey, I don't understand what you mean by that. Like, help me connect the dots. Or if you say something, I'm like, whoa, hold on. I got to challenge that. And here's why. What do you have to say about that? And then just actually have a real conversation with these guys. It's so much more powerful. I think that's what I would do. I would come with less questions. And I know Promit personally. I know that he's prepared. I know that he's researched. I know that he's super intelligent. But I also know that, and Promit, look, I'm not saying this to beat you up, that sometimes your communication comes across a little bit stiff, and that makes it awkward. And so I think you should practice not being so researched, not being so prepared, and allowing the conversation to just go where it's going to go, and experiment with that and toy around with that and see if that helps you in that conversation.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
And by
Greg
the way, hold
Cleaver.
on, I got to say
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing
Go ahead.
on that. Sometimes I say things and, like, and I'm like that. I said, sometimes the conversation's a little bit stiff, for example. Like, I'm not saying that to call him out. I'm saying that because I hope it helps you. I hope it serves you. I hope me being honest in my assessment gives you something to improve upon. Like, it's not mean spirited. It's in the spirit of help and brotherhood. So I hope it comes across that way.
Yeah. I think it does. Well, at least those that know us or that know you know what I mean? They
Right.
understand that, I think. I'd hope. All right. Next question. Greg Cleaver. Ryan, you spoke about the concept of building a buffer into your weekly and daily planning in a recent podcast. What practical ways do you find balance when you are planning to make sure responsibilities, self-growth steps are accounted for while still finding enough buffer time for yourself to avoid burnout? I'm finding myself hitting burnout too often, and I know I need to pivot.
Well, okay. So when I was talking about buffer the other day, that isn't actually what I was talking about. I'm going to
Yeah, I was
address your
going to say,
question. Yeah, but I hope we're not having a misunderstanding here. When I was talking about buffers, I was talking about buffers in our calendar. So if I had, for example, an appointment, well, today, here's a great example. You and me have a podcast. We record at 9 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time, Monday morning.
yeah,
And we get done at 10. It's an hour recording. But I don't schedule another interview or conversation or appointment at 10 o'clock Mountain. It's usually going to be 10:30 or maybe even 11, because I know, Kip, sometimes we go a little longer. Sometimes there's certain agenda items that we need to talk about off air. So I don't schedule it right on top of each other. And that way I have a little bit of buffer or margin to be able to decompress or to take some notes for the podcast or get up and take a leak if I
yeah.
have to, or do whatever it is. Or I just got a text on my phone a minute ago. I'm not going to answer it now, but I'm probably going to have a few texts I can answer between the end of this conversation and my next appointment. If I stack everything to the brim, I actually notice myself being less productive. I'm doing a whole lot more, Yes, definitely, but a whole lot less productive throughout the day. So that's what I meant by buffers, is creating buffers for that. Now, Greg, what you're talking about is making sure that you're balancing work activities with taking time off or mixing it up. And that's a great question. What I would say is to experiment and then to allow yourself intentional time. And there was another question I saw, so maybe we'll get deeper into this in a minute. But and you could pull it up because he's talking
Yeah,
about,
I was going to say, give me the
yeah,
gist.
ask that question too right now, because I think this will answer both of these questions.
Okay.
So what was that question? It's the one I'm referring to.
Well, give me the gist really quick because there's
Oh,
a
he
bunch
was,
here.
yeah, I'll tell you. He was talking about. In fact, I have it
Morning
too.
routine,
No, it was from. I think it's from Austin. Yeah, Austin Carter,
Carter. Okay,
4006.
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Austin Carter's question, which is related here. When is leisure relaxation acceptable? At what point in a man's day can he give himself permission to rest and relax? And what do you fellas do just for fun or no quantifiable productive outcome other than joy, wonder, and having fun? Watching a movie, going to a concert, reading a fictional book for entertainment, etc.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll answer the second half of that in a minute, but the
Yeah,
first part of that
I like
aligns
that.
nicely with what Greg was saying. And here's what I would suggest to you is that your relaxation or your buffer time in this case, Greg, that you're referring to, it just needs to be intentional.
Yeah.
It just needs to be intentional. If we give ourselves too much time or we hit the burnout stage and then what do we do? Like, let's say you've been working out, 90 days straight. You've been going in for an hour and a half every single day because you're training for some particular event. And now you're just exhausted and burned out and burned up. What usually happens is you take way longer to go back to the gym than just taking a day off.
Yeah.
So if instead of working out for 90 days, maybe you should train hard for 30 days and then allow yourself a day break. And I'm not saying sit around on the couch and eat bonbons and Cheetos. I'm saying maybe instead of working your ass off that day in the gym, maybe you just go for a walk with your family, or you go on a nice little hike in the afternoon, or something like that, right? So you're still moving, still being intentional, but you're mixing it up. And the beauty of that is that you're still achieving your goals. You're still marching forward. I had a great presentation from Wes Watson. A lot of you guys know who Wes is. He's been on the podcast, but he was at Operation Blacksite, and he said that people always ask him, how does he get so far ahead? 5 years ago, this is a guy who was in a state penitentiary and he had $200 to his name. Now he's making tens of millions of dollars a year through his coaching services. How did he get so far ahead? He says, I never stop. Every single day, I'm marching forward. He's like, some guys will do that for 5 days and then they'll take 2, 3 huge step backward
Mm.
every Saturday and Sunday. He's like, I don't do that. I march forward every single day. And we can do the same thing, but we can mix it up, right? So now you're going to go for a hike instead of doing a workout. Now you're going to go for a walk or you're going to play a round of golf. And it's mixing it up. So you're not doing the same monotonous thing all day, every day. And it's giving you a new way of looking at things, exercising new muscles, training the brain to see things differently because you're engaged in different activities. But it has to be intentional. If you wait till you're burned up, you're just not going to do anything. And you're going to take way too long to get back into the saddle the way that you want to. Do you think that helps?
I do. I do think that helps. I mean, I think the intentionality is everything.
It
I mean,
is.
if something's really important to you, what do? You and I both know we put it on our calendars. It's no different, right? So if I want to be intentional and, going on a one-on-one date night with one of my kids is important, then it should be scheduled just like everything else in my life that's really important. That's my system to make sure I don't miss something that's important. It's no different. Jiu-jitsu's on my calendar just like my workouts are on my calendar, right? Because of the intentionality around them. So,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I just if you're not intentional, you'll just fall off the wagon. You'll never get back on. So if you're
yeah.
feeling burned out, like, okay, you need to mix something up. You need to take a break, and that's okay. But you better tell yourself what exactly is it going to be? How long is it going to be for? How are you going to get back into it? Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're just going to take it way too far. We just do.
Yeah. Now, Austin's second question is just kind of curious around what non-quantitative, unproductive things do we do?
Did he use the word unproductive? I can't remember.
Uh,
He did. He said like unproductive or non-productive.
Quantifiable productive outcome other than joy, wonder, having fun. Yeah. So like, yeah. So he says that, or just for fun.
Look, other than joy, wonder, like those are things that we should have in our lives. And kind of barking up the wrong tree on this one because I struggle personally in my own life with this. But you know,
Yeah.
I got home. I took my two oldest boys to California. I got back, and many of you guys know about my personal situation with my ex wife and the relationship, and um, technically this is so weird. It's such a weird thing, but let's address it like it is. Like technically, this is my weekend with the kids. Okay,
Yeah.
and she had the two younger ones because me and the two older ones were in California, and so technically, when I got home, they should all be with me Sunday night, and then I drop them off Monday morning to her
Yeah.
for schooling. That's the arrangement. But I'm not, neither one of us are so ridiculous that we're not willing to adjust that as necessary in the situation calls for. So I sent her a message. I said, hey, I know you probably missed the boys. Technically they're with me tonight, but would you like the boys to stay with you tonight? Because we've been gone for the last 4 nights. And she's like, yeah, I'd really like that actually, if you don't mind. I'm like, of course I don't mind. Like, of course I want that. What's good for the kids. I want what's good for her. Of course I don't mind. And she said, well, do you still want the two little ones to be with you? I said, yeah, I want them to be with me for tonight since I haven't seen them for the last 3 or 4 nights. And she's like, great, we'll swap. Kind of joking, but it sounds so weird, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. That's the situation. So I dropped the older boys off. I take the two little ones with me and I'm like, hey, what do you guys want to do? They're like, let's go grab some dinner. I'm like, good, we'll go grab some dinner. We got here, they got their bags dropped off in their rooms, and then we went for a bike ride. And I saw a yard sale and I need to get them a couple of bikes. So I went to a yard sale last week and I saw two bikes. I got two bikes for $10, spent $5 on a tube for each one of them. So I got two bikes for $15. I'm like, let's go for a bike ride. So we all went for a bike ride and it was awesome. Like,
Yeah.
there was no objective, like there was no agenda. I didn't even know which direction we were going to go or how long we were going to be gone or what, like none of that. And it was nice. We just went around the block for a bike ride and laughed and talked and realized one of the bikes that I bought didn't have brakes on it. So we found that out. My daughter, she's going down this hill. She's like, Dad, I can't stop. I'm like, just keep going straight. The hill levels out. Just stay straight. Stay. And I'm yelling at her because she's
That's
ahead of me. I'm like,
awesome.
stay going straight. Stay straight. And she did, and she was fine. I I guess the reason I share that with you is like I'm personally trying to find more joy in moments. Like what and you might find yourself in a moment. What is the joy in this? I'm looking outside in the backyard and I've got a baseball net up there because my second and fourth children are playing baseball. I'm coaching their teams. And, sometimes I don't want to be out there throwing soft toss. Like I don't. Like, I got emails to send. I got texts I got to do. I got this I got to do and this and that and fix the house and change this and do this. And then I just stop and I'm like, this is fun. Like no agenda, just step, throw, help him work on his swing a little bit, laugh at him when he messes up, congratulate him when he does well. And that's enough. Like I'm really trying to find situations where the situation in and of itself is enough. It's good. It's good enough as in it's hitting the baseline, but it's good enough the way it is and just enjoy it. So those are some of the things that I would do. It's usually involves my kids.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm the same way. We don't, TVs are downstairs in some corner of the house. So it's like, we don't watch movies unless it's like this intentional, like, hey kids, you want to watch a movie, right? Other than that, there's no TV on or anything like that. Fictional books. Lately, actually, my brother's been helping me on the electrical on this house that I'm working on. It's kind of funny actually, because I didn't think he is so nerdy. I'm like, what are you listening to? And he's like, these books about Thrawn on Star Wars. They're so awesome. I'm like, what? You're like, really? And he's like, oh man, they're the cool. Like, and he just nerded out. And I was like,
That's your brother?
all right. Yeah. Yeah. I had no idea. It was super funny. And so I was like, all right, which one should I start listening to first? And so now when I work on the house, I'm listening to these old Star Wars books on Audible.
That's funny.
It's fun, right?
Yeah.
But I usually don't sit down, at least on a fictional book. I don't sit down and just enjoy the book. It's usually, I do that when I'm multitasking usually, but I'm the same way. I think it's just go to the Nickelcade with it's usually related to my kids.
Yeah.
Or when we're on holiday and I get into the mode of like, what do you want to do? And the mode is whatever. What do we want to do today? Yeah. And that's when I'm fully relaxed. But yeah, pretty much the same.
I found, I don't know if you feel this way, Kit, but I found that for me, again, I'm all about being productive. I want to be productive. I have to-do lists. I've got notes everywhere. I've got checklists and things I've got to accomplish. And I feel really good at the end of the day when that's done. But I've actually found myself being more productive the more time that I take and be quote unquote unproductive deliberately. Again, intentionality. Yeah. I'm not just saying sit around and be lazy. I'm saying I'm going to play catch with my kids this afternoon. I'm more productive when I do that because I know I have a certain window and my schedule has changed. You know, when the kids are the days that they're with me is I drop them off at school, which happens to be their mom's house because having them homeschooled was still important for both of us. So we made sure that was the case and that could happen. So I drop them off at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And then I pick them up from school, which is again, their mom's house at 3 o'clock. So that means that I lost 2 to 3 hours a day when they're with me. Because normally I would work 5 to 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I thought, oh man, this is going to be rough. It's not hard at all. It's just, okay, I got to be more productive in this window. I have a smaller window. It went from, 8, 9 hours to 6, 7 hours. And so I have to be way more productive in this window. And I am, and it's fine. It works because we make it work.
Yeah. It's amazing. Everyone can relate to that. Everyone can relate to times where you had some type of timeline. You had this ridiculous short window to prepare for a meeting, a lesson, a presentation, or something. And you just went all in as fast as humanly possible, laser focused, and you pulled it off.
Yep.
Yeah, and we normally don't work that way. We work distracted constantly. So it's like the intentionality is a whole other, I don't know. I mean, there's books written on this whole subject, but anyhow.
Well, and I just pulled this up.
Short time.
This is so here. Let's see. This is called Parkinson's law. So it's the adage that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. It's Parkinson's law. Again, work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. So we usually think about that in the context of, well, I've got 2 weeks to finish this thing, right? And so I've got plenty of time, and so I'll be done in 2 weeks, but it'll always be at the buzzer. It's the same concept as why I don't think you should go Christmas shopping in October, because you're going to be done a day or two before Christmas, whether you do it in October or whether you start in December 1st. The only difference is October, you're going to end up buying way more stuff than if you would have just waited.
Because you won't stop between then and Christmas. Right. Yeah.
So it's Parkinson's law. But the opposite is also true, is your work will, it's not even the opposite. It's just a part of the law is that your work will, it says expand, but I will also say it will contract. It will contract to the time allotted. So if I have only 5 hours to complete a 10-hour project, unless it's unreasonable, I'm probably going to actually get it done in 5 hours because there's not distractions. There's no procrastination. I'm hyper
not overthinking it.
Yeah. Yes. Focused on the main thing as opposed to all the little ancillary type problems that you may have to regularly deal with. So it's work is very much the same way. You can get just as much done today. In fact, I would challenge you guys this week, pick a day and let's say you've got, 8 hours in that work day, try to get all your work done in 5 hours today. and let me know how it goes. Like, get your to-do list out and say, hey, I've got 5 hours, and tell me if you get it done. I'd be willing to bet the majority of you will get it done in 5, what normally takes you 8.
Totally. I have a timer. It's a little dial, looks like a Nest dial, and you run this timer. I actually put it on my desk, and I actually intentionally do this. So I'll look at, I don't know, I need to complete something, and I have like a 45-minute window. I'll be like 30 minutes. I'll put it on that timer, put my headphones on, and I'll go as narrow focus as humanly possible for that 30 minutes. When that timer's up, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so I create those time boxes. So then that way I'm hyper focus sensitive on it too.
What is it called? Do you know what it's called?
Oh, there's all these things. You
Okay.
can look at time box timers. There's cubes that people have like 15, 30 minute, and you just put the cube on its side and it just starts magically counting whenever the cube's on that side. Yeah. So it's handy.
Well, I also think Parkinson's law, since we're addressing this, is the reason why school, military, and government work are so inefficient. Like when we first started doing homeschool, my ex-wife came to me and she said, hey, we're done. And this was like at noon. Hey, we're done with school. I'm like, what do you mean you're done? You're like done for lunch, or you're done, like you don't want to do it anymore? Like, what is that? I don't know what that means. It's like, no, we're done. Like our whole curriculum is done. I'm like, oh no, we must be using the wrong curriculum. No, what takes a school, a public school, 8 hours to do, takes homeschoolers 3 hours to do. Why?
Totally.
No assemblies, no transferring from class to class, no trying to keep up with, take it the dumb kids. I know that's going to rub.
Yeah, the slower kids in the class, slowing down the learning process for them.
Inefficiencies and red tape and bureaucracy teachers have to deal with, administrative nonsense. It just it's not necessary. Military is the same way. You guys know this. If you're in the military, you know this. If you have an hour to train a certain task, it's going to take you an hour, even though you could actually get it done in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know that. I remember in basic training, we had a 2 or 3 hour time block for physical training. 3 hours? Come on. We don't need 3 hours. And we'd go and we'd do the work, and they'd look at their clocks. They're like, well, we have 45 minutes left, so let's do extra. Like, let's do something else. We got that done. Can we move on to something else and be efficient with it? Nope, can't do that. We're on a schedule. Right? And government work is the same way. It's the reason you see all these people leaning around on their shovels.
Yeah.
And it's like, or the reason a supervisor or somebody who's been there for a long time will say, hey, to the new guy, don't work so hard. We're going to be here till this time anyway. So let's just extend the workout.
Yeah. Their incentive to work harder doesn't exist.
Mediocrity and complacency. It exists everywhere.
It's crazy.
It's insanity.
You riled up.
It's insane. It really is insane. And yet we all buy into it. All right, what's next?
Yeah. All right, Travis Neville. For my calibration quadrant this quarter, I'm working on building a morning routine to help facilitate some structure and mental resilience. Is there anything you gentlemen do that helps you in the morning to stick on task to your schedule or challenge yourself?
Yes. What I would say to this is that my morning schedule actually starts the night before. That actually helps me. So what I mean by that is that I don't come into the office or come into work or start my day wondering what I'm going to do. I'm not like over here, like, okay, well, I got to answer these emails, and then, who should I call? Well, I'm going to call, maybe I can call this person and do this.
Maybe I'll do this today. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's none of that. Or the gym. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm going to come over here and, okay, let me see what I got at my workout. I don't really know. Let me just jump online and see if I can find a workout. Like if I have to do that, I'm not going to go to the gym. Or even with my clothes, it's like, okay, all my clothes are dirty. I get up, my clothes are dirty. I'm like, man, I don't have any socks or underwear to wear. I guess I'll do it tomorrow. That's the biggest distraction of getting your work done, is not knowing the work that needs to be done. So my most effective mornings start the night before, where I actually make a detailed, itemized list of everything that needs to get accomplished. and then I grease the groove. So what I mean by that is that if I'm going to go work out, I'm not going to wake up and look at what my workout is. I'm going to look at it the night before. Okay, well, I got, arms and upper back today. Okay, that's this, and this, and this. Cool. Check. Got it. So that's part of it. I get my clothes laid out, my pre-workout, my water. My water's in the fridge. Like I don't even pour myself water in the morning. I pour it the night before and put the water bottle in the fridge so I don't have to pour it. It's in there. I could just grab it out of there. Like everything is streamlined to the maximum degree the night before. And look, I'm not perfect, but I know the days that I don't do that, the mornings are significantly less productive than the mornings where I do actually plan it out the day before.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, I put my workout clothes at least out, so I'm not fiddling in the dark. You know what I mean? Trying not to wake up kids and wife and everything. My morning routine is always I wake up, go to the gym. You know what I mean? Then I start my day. I do the same thing actually with my assistant every day. We do an end of day before I even leave the office. So I know what tomorrow looks like, any pressing issues that should be on my radar before I even leave the office. So that way I'm not carrying it home with me. I think that's been a huge game changer for me, is to prepare for the next day is like in my day. And I think that's really important for people that struggle with bringing work home and vice versa. Is like, you got it in your day. It's got to be clean. Like I'm done working. Now everything can wait until I'm here tomorrow. And then that way you can be a little bit more present. Sorry, that's a little bit of a side tangent, but my morning routine is pretty much workouts. I've done a number of things like, who's Marcus? What's Marcus's, he wrote that book, The Day. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You've Win the Day, Aubrey Marcus.
Aubrey Marcus. Yeah. So he had some good morning routine elements. Same thing with Travis, another resource, the Miracle Morning. Those are, I think those are actually really great books and around creating morning routine. So I'd look at those.
The thing that I would be cautious of is geeking out over it.
Like putting too much into your morning.
Yeah. Like Aubrey Marcus has some great stuff. He's kind of more in the biohacking arena. He's right there with Ben Greenfield. Those guys they're breaking rules and doing a lot of experimental stuff. And I think it's cool. Like I really do. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. Like, there was one thing I remember, and I was joking with Aubrey about this, about him and Ben, like went and did some sort of infrared ultra ray light on their balls, on their testicles, because it's supposed to increase their sperm count, which increases testosterone production, like all this stuff. I'm like, okay, at some point there's a diminishing return on some of this. And I think people, and I don't think this about these guys in particular, because I know them and what they do, but at some point people geek out on this stuff to excuse them from doing the 80%. Now we're talking about laws and principles, Pareto principle. You need to do the 20% of work that's going to produce 80% of the results. So everybody's out there taking testosterone and tanning their balls and their buttholes and, doing all sorts of weird nonsense when it's like, did you drink a gallon of water today?
Yeah. Are you still drinking soda
for an hour? Like, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could do all the weird shit, all the fringe stuff, all you want. But if we're not doing the 20% base fundamental stuff, like guys will take creatine and whey and protein and this and that. It's like, well, where'd you have lunch today? They're like, well, I had the double Whopper loaded with extra fries and a Coke at Burger King today. I'm like, well, okay, like what? So you're taking whey and creatine and testosterone, this and that, and all these things, but you're eating this? Like, and I'm not here to judge you, because I eat the double Whopper too. I love the double Whopper, but at least I'm not going to lie to myself about it and say that I'm healthy because I'm taking all these supplements when I'm really not.
Yeah.
Like, lock in the diet first. And then if you're there, then okay, now we can talk about supplementation.
Yeah, totally. Well, and the other thing is related to what you said, Ryan, and I even did this I remember years ago, we covered the morning routine in the Iron Council. That was my first exposure to that book. And I remember I took it and I was like, oh, now I got this morning routine that's like an hour and a half long. You know what I mean? And they didn't even include my workout, right? It was like, I'm going to journal, I'm going to do this. And it was like this big ordeal. and it didn't last because it was too much, right?
Right.
It was too difficult, right? Or and I think it's like, this is the advice I give guys that journal, is time box your journaling too. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you'll like spend 2 hours and awesome, you'll have this great, amazing journal entry. But come tomorrow, you'll go, oh man, I don't want to do it. That took like 2 hours yesterday. And then you're not going to do it. Right. So just be mindful of that. Like I've certainly, I still love those books. So check them out, but like time box it and say, hey, I'm going to nice, efficient, quick, so you can be consistent with it. That's where you'll get the most
Yeah.
gains. So,
And look, I mean, let's be realistic about our morning routines. Like, let's be honest about it. You know, I wake up, if I go to the gym, I'm usually up about 15 minutes before I go to the gym. Like,
yeah, me
I'm
too.
not, I'm not up 2 hours before I go to the gym and like stretching and like it's not. I get up, my hair's a mess, I'm a little disheveled, like I'm tired, I'm groggy, I'm still wiping the sleep out of my eyes. Okay, like, but that's what I've got, you know? So I go to the gym and I do my thing. I try to drink a bottle of water or at least some water before I go to the gym. I could probably drink more. I could probably put pink Himalayan salt with a little chili powder or something, or cumin or whatever products they use to help
Yeah.
boost your, your
With
immune
lemon.
system in the morning. Yeah, I could do that, but I'm not going to do that, but I'll drink some water. I get done with my workout. I come back, I get cleaned up. I like to look presentable. So I get cleaned up, get ready for the day. I've already got my task list. So I start knocking a few things out here and there. And I'll journal too in the morning, but it's not 15 minutes of journaling even. It might be just 5 minutes. Like, hey, gym was good today. Felt a little out of it, but pretty productive. Numbers went up. Feeling strong today. A little sore from the weekend. Met this person. Decided to go to lunch with this guy that was a long lost friend that we reconnected with. It's like, and that takes me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's pretty much my morning routine. And am I going to read? Maybe. Usually I'll try to read the Bible at night, read a few pages in the evening, but enough with the people who are lying about their morning routine. That's not what's happening. There are some, but for the overwhelming majority of people, it's not this like glorious,
Yeah,
grand thing.
totally agree. He had a question around just building mental resilience. What do you do, Ryan, that you feel like contributes to building that, whether it's part of a morning routine or not? I think that just might be insightful really quick.
It's anything that you don't want to do, but know that you should. That's how you
Which
build
by
mental
default,
resiliency.
your day has those. Yeah.
Of course. And if look, two choices when there's something that comes up that you don't want to do that you should, you have two choices: to do it or to kick the can down the road. Kicking the can down the
Excuse
road
it.
diminishes
Yeah.
mental resiliency. Addressing it head on, face first, and going after it is what strengthens mental resiliency. That's it. It's that simple. There's nothing more to it. So if you have to have a conversation with a subordinate or your boss,
Yeah.
and you're dreading it, kicking it off till tomorrow means you're being weak.
Yeah.
That's like objectively the case. It means you're being weak. I'm not accusing you. It's just the reality. I do that too. When we
Yeah.
know we should do something and we don't, we're being weak. When we do something and we know we should, we're not only being strong, we're also being courageous. Because it's fear. It's the fear, it's the discomfort, it's the uncomfort.
Yeah.
Anytime you know you should be doing something and you don't,
There's
you're
your opportunity. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. So it's working out, uncomfortable conversation, presentation, working on a specific task, asking that woman out on a date, like anything. And then what's beautiful about that is even if the end result doesn't go your way, let's say you ask that woman on a date and she's like, no, I just want to be friends. Okay, that sucks. That's a kick in the dick. But you know what? You still should feel better about that because A, now you can go find somebody else. And B, you're like, cool, I had the balls to actually go do it. And
Yeah.
it feels good. When you go have that awkward conversation, it's awkward. It's uncomfortable. It's not fun. And it may not
You
even
feel
be
better
fun.
after.
You will feel better, not necessarily because of the result, because the result might not be what you want, but you're like, oh, that sucked. I'm so glad I got it done. And you'll
Totally.
feel better because you're
Totally.
building mental resiliency. That's it.
Yeah. And please, if you're parents, look for opportunities to do this. Build mental resilience, delay gratification. And it's silly. I've never thought of this until, geez, maybe the last couple of years. But this, and our parents probably never put this verbiage to it, but it's totally what it is. This is why you have your kids clean their rooms before they play. It's a great opportunity for your kid to delay gratification, build some mental resilience, and actually do something they don't want to do and be rewarded for it later.
Yep.
And by you going, you know what, go ahead and go play and you can clean your room later, you just robbed the opportunity for them to build some mental resilience and delay gratification.
Yep.
You know, so anyhow, and we all don't live on farms. So look for those opportunities to do that for kids, you know.
Well, it doesn't
All right,
matter
Tyler
if you live
Morgan.
on a farm. I mean, you could live in a
There's just more
1,100 square
opportunity
foot
there,
apartment. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think if look, you can live in an 1,100 square foot apartment and there's things to do. Like there's always things to do. There's chores, there's projects, there's this, there's that. There's always there's laundry, there's dishes, there's mopping the floor. Like you can find all sorts of things.
Yeah, to make your kids, practice that. I see that. All right, Tyler Morgan. I just started reading the book Everyone Communicates, Few Connect by John Maxwell. The premise is that talk is cheap and words are abundant. So focus on how much it's actually reaching others effectively. I know that I am not naturally gifted in this area or connecting with communication. I've gotten feedback that tells me it's hard to follow my many thoughts and that I'm not clear and I'm too vague. I know this week's weakness has played a role in holding me back from where I want to go. I can replay conversations, have better words after interactions are over, but in the moment, I'm a wreck and I don't leave an impression.
Yeah. Who is this? Who this come from?
Tyler Morgan.
Tyler, my disclaimer. I love you. I want you to win. I want you to be able to communicate effectively with people, but I've got to get after you on this. I think I know your problem. And let me read your question with some emphasis on a few points. So, Tyler, was it Tyler Morgan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, he says the premise is that talk is cheap, words are abundant. So, focus how much is reaching others, how much is actually reaching others effectively. He's not gifted in the area. This is important. The area of connecting with connection. Yeah. Well, no. I'll get to that. But it says, I'm not gifted in the area of connecting. That's important. Connecting with communication. So what I hear in this question is that you want to connect with other people. So I'm not going to tell you this to beat you up, but I'm going to point some things out. If I were to read your statement, there's like 17 I's in there. I just started reading this. I know that I am not. I've gotten feedback. I'm not clear. I know this is a weakness where I want to go. I can replay the conversations. You see the problem?
Yeah.
You're being selfish.
You're not connecting. Yeah.
That's why you're not connecting with people, because if you're translating, and again, I'm saying this from a place of care for you. If your communication verbal is a lot like this communication here, where you wrote this down, I would not want to talk with you either, because it's all about you. It's all about you. Instead, we need to learn to make it all about the other person. So how would this change? Instead of me being, I don't know how to connect with people. I can't connect with people. The better thing would be, how will this person be served? What does this person need from me? What value can I give to this individual? What would this person enjoy in a conversation? See the difference? The more you start focusing on other people, the more connection you're going to make. Because if you come into a conversation, Tyler, with me, and now you're not like, I don't know how to communicate, I don't know how to contact, I can't connect with people, I'm not good at this, I'm not gifted, I'm sick of it. But if you come to me and you say, hey, Ryan, like, man, really value what you have to share. What are you struggling with right now? What are your pain points? What's going well for you? How does that work? Oh, what? You're having success in that avenue? That's amazing. How is that working? What have you tried that didn't work? You see the difference? Now the conversation is all about that other person. And now if you're talking to me, I'm excited to talk with you because I get to talk about myself.
Yeah.
So the best way to add value in communication is to let that other person see that it's about them. It really should be about them. And by the way, we're going to talk a lot about this, Tyler. Here in the Iron Council, we're going to talk a lot about this next month as we talk about powerful networking strategies. And we're going to share how to communicate, how to add value to conversations, how to look for adding value to people. But the more that you can add value to other individuals, the better connector you're going to be. I promise you. Do you
Yeah,
think that helps, Kip? Do you think I just want to make
totally.
sure he got what he needed?
I think it comes down to intent. And the intent can't be, I want to be a great communicator to connect with people. It needs to be, I want to let people know that I care and I want to serve them. And your intent will show. Like I know people that are actually horrible communicators, but guess what? I know they love me. I know they care. And so do we have great connection? Yeah, we have amazing connection because it's real. So just make it real, right? Just get clear on the intent. And now don't get me wrong, right? If I care about you, Ryan, and I'm a good communicator, that ups my game, right? But I mean, it's the same thing we talk about like leaders, right? You can have an amazing leaders. They could be charismatic, great communicators and everything. But if the intent is to look good and build themselves up and it's about them, it doesn't matter. All their talents are wasted because their intent is not about serving other people.
Right.
And so it gets wasted.
Yep.
So I just another way of saying the same thing. I think it really has to be rooted in service and why you're wanting to connect with people.
Agreed. And his question in there is how do you objectively judge and correct your flaws when your inability to do so is in the past is the reason that it's an issue that it hasn't improved. Again, change your motive.
Yeah, it's
Really
not about
focus on
you.
your motive. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that
And
will begin to show. But again, it's also easy to deceive yourself because why do we serve other people? Think about this for a second. Why do we serve other people? I would argue that for the majority of us, it's because we feel good when we do, which is
yeah,
selfish.
makes us look good. Yeah.
We're again, it goes back to selfishness. Kip, the reason I serve you is because it feels good for me to do that. Well, I want to feel good. So therefore the benefit wasn't for you, it's for me. You just happen to be the medium for me to feel better about myself. So are we actually serving because we care about that person? If nobody was around to receive the accolades or to give you the accolades or give you credit or clap or the round of applause or whatever you're looking for, would you still do that thing? Ask yourself that. Would you still do that? And for many of us, in certain cases, yes. If it was our wife or our kids or our loved ones,
Yeah.
yes, we would do that. But in a lot of our day-to-day interaction, if we're being honest, probably not.
And I think we can lose it. And we do. Like I could answer that question right now, Ryan, going, oh yeah, it's my intent is pure. It's out of service and love and caring. And then within a week, that's flipped on its head and I've gotten not focused on the right thing. And I've started worrying about my ego and looking good. And I have to like fight to stay in that mindset and hold on to that. I don't think I think it's like integrity. It's something that we have to fight for every single day and you'll lose it. And before you know it, you're doing stuff because you want to look good and feel good. And it's not about other people if you don't constantly fight to make sure your intent is pure.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing that he said that I thought you were going to say too, but and we don't have to dive into it, but Tyler also like, and or anyone else listening, be careful not to buy into things, right? Like, you know, I'm not naturally gifted in this area. It's like, well, who's naturally gifted? It like I don't know. I'm sure people are naturally gifted in key things. However, you seeing yourself as not naturally gifted will be a roadblock for you. So just let go of it. And I think a more powerful way of looking at that is I don't have the reps yet. I haven't probably gotten enough reps in here. So I'm probably not good at this particular thing yet. And it's about reps. Don't fall into this folly of like, well, I'm a set way of being or a fixed way of being. I don't necessarily think that's true for the majority of us. Now, I think we do have talents that we can expand and grow, but a lot of the time, these stories that we have about ourselves, they're not true, and they just hold us back more than anything. So just be mindful of that, I guess.
I think that's really well said. And also look, if you're truly not naturally gifted or talented in that area, good. Then you get opportunity to work on it.
Yeah.
And you could actually be better than somebody who is naturally gifted, because what are they going to do? Rest on their laurels.
Yeah, totally.
Like somebody who communicates almost seamlessly and flawlessly, they have issues too. They struggle with other things. Might not be communication, but maybe they might struggle with running their mouth. You know, they might put their foot in their mouth or say dumb things a lot because they just communicate and they just blurt it all out. And that's like, they're good at certain things, but then they share too much, right? And so that's something that they could work on. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. And if you're like, I'm not naturally gifted in that area, good. Now you get to go to work and you get to be deliberate about what part of your life you're
Yeah.
going to improve. And you
Yeah,
get to create
I
it.
like that attitude.
Hey,
All
can we
right,
take, so we got to
anonymous.
take one more,
What
but Kip, I want to jump
you
ahead
want
a
to
little bit.
jump to one? Okay.
I want to answer this one because not only does it apply to my own personal life currently, but I think it kind of ties in line with what we were just sharing with Tyler. So, and that one comes from, that's the last question. It comes from Ryan Mills. Can you read
Ryan
that
Mills.
question?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, Ryan Mills. Ryan and Kip, thank you both for what you're doing.
Okay,
Appreciate the
just
value
stop
and
there.
insights you bring.
That's all I
Yeah.
want. That's all I wanted you to share.
Yeah.
That's it.
That was my joke. I was going to read that and go, all right,
Oh,
we're
sorry. I
done.
still have room.
That's
All
all
right,
right.
keep going.
Great minds think alike. All right. My question is related to divorced families. It hit me recently that my kids, who I have shared 50-50 custody with, are living a double life in a lot of ways. At my home, we are strict, especially with scripture study, prayer, church attendance, and trying to live the gospel principles. At the mother's home, they are not only have the opposite of that, but she became antagonist towards God and the church, even to the point of making fun of my daughter for wanting to live those principles at her house. I know the pain that trying to serve two masters creates. My question is, what tips or thoughts would you have on smoothing things out and creating more consistency? My kids are all teenagers at this point.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about this because this impacts my own personal life and it's fairly new for me. And Kip, you're more of a veteran, obviously, with how this relates.
Yeah.
So I thought this would help to see it
I've
from
had
both
this
perspectives.
exact issue too.
Okay, now I haven't. And again, I'm new to this, but I have not had this, and I really don't anticipate this being a big issue. But I still think I might be able to share some insights. But I'm going to give this little disclaimer here first. Number one, I'm new to this. All right. So everything's fresh. Something down the road, certainly like this, could happen. I'm not saying that it can't. I'm just saying it hasn't, and I don't anticipate it, but I want to be aware of it. The other disclaimer I want to give is that my ex-wife and I are pretty much on the same page with just about everything except for being together. Like, but everything else,
which is so huge,
is pretty much on the same page, from spirituality to the way that we want to raise our kids to a thought process about politics, like pretty much on the same page with everything. So I want to give that too. But with that said, I think that one thing that could help, number one, you have to have boundaries and rules in place. And I think it is important that you communicate those with the co-parent, right? With your ex-wife. Like, it's very important that you communicate with her about these things. Maybe you've already done that. Maybe you haven't. If you haven't, do it. If you have, there's probably some other little obstacles in here that are going to make this a lot harder. And what we want to do is we want to get rid of those obstacles before we even have these conversations, because we need to be amicable and we need to be able to work together on other issues so that it translates into these more deeper fundamental issues. So here's what I would propose. And again, I don't know your situation, so I'm just speaking because I know a lot of guys are. If when you have the kids, you say you're going to drop the kids off at 3:00, dang well better drop the kids off at 3 o'clock. If your wife calls you or your ex-wife calls you and she says she's having a bad day and she wants to be with the kids because she's upset and she's having a hard time, if that doesn't go over any boundaries that you have, you probably ought to consider doing that because it would be helpful for
Totally.
her and also the kids. If there's little minor disagreements that really don't put you under a whole lot of pressure, stress, or go across any of your boundaries or put your kids in any sort of danger or anything like that, you should probably be pretty amicable about that. When your kids talk about your ex-wife, even though you may not totally feel like it, you should probably be supportive of your ex-wife and the relationship she has with your guys' children. Um, we were talking about women the other day, my two oldest boys and I. We were talking about different types of women. And I said, you have to be careful with these types of women because of dot, dot, dot. What you want to do is you want to find a great woman like mom. And I wasn't lying. That's true. Like mom, because of these things. And I listed all of these character traits that are so incredible and beautiful in her that I think are notable and worthwhile and worth pursuing.
Totally.
I speak highly of her, not only because I love her, but because they need to see me speaking highly of her. And I will say something else about this. Again, I'm new to it, and this isn't the reason I'm doing it. But you know who's going to hear about that? Mom. At some point, something's going to get brought up, and one of the kids is going to say, "Oh, yeah, dad said he loved that about you." I'm not trying to be manipulative. I'm not trying to use kids to like, none of that. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. I truly feel that way. And I want to build goodwill between me and my children and my ex wife and the dynamic and the relationship. And I want everything around it to be positive and good, regardless of the way everything turns out. Because that time that I need to come to her and I need to say, hey, I need to have a conversation with you about some things. And this is probably not going to be a real comfortable conversation, but I've been really dedicated to making sure the kids get a dose of spirituality when they're with me. And it's very important to me and it's very important to the kids. And I realize you don't feel the same way about it, but I felt like you might be actively working to undermine what we're doing here. And I don't mind that you're not engaged spiritually the same way that I am. We all have to make those choices, but I would appreciate it if you didn't mock or put down or belittle what it is I'm trying to create. That would mean a lot to me. The more that you've built up the bank account with her by dropping the kids off at time, being amicable, being flexible with schedules, going
Helping
out of your way
out.
to serve her and help her in different
Yeah.
ways, like again, my disclaimer is that my ex-wife and I are pretty much on the same page, but I can't envision that being the case because there's just goodwill that's being built. What do you think though, Kip?
Totally. No, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know what kind of crazy he's dealing with, right? Like,
Right. Right.
because you might get in a scenario where you're just dealing with crazy, but what you said is still true. And it may just mean it's harder, but you helping, you serving, you going out of your way and not trying to seek justice in all things is only going to help you, right? There's been scenarios where in the past it's like, hey, I bet we could probably reduce child support now or whatever. I'd save a lot of money and we should do it. It wasn't worth it. Like, it wasn't worth it, right? It wasn't worth the relationship of me going, let me nickel and dime. It wasn't. And where's the money going anyway? To the house where my two kids live. In the grand scheme of things, right? Like, I shouldn't be complaining about that, right? Like, it could be a lot worse. It could be going to the government, right? Instead. So at least it's going in the household where my kids are. And so what you said is true regardless. It just may be harder to do depending at the level of crazy that you might be dealing with is all.
Yeah. I know guys, well, Sean Whalen is an example of that, where he had, a horrible divorce and so much contention and animosity. He talks about it Police had to come when they would do children exchanges. It was that bad. And he
Yeah.
tells a story of one of his mentors saying, you need to write her a letter and tell her all the things you appreciate about her. He's like, hell no, I'm not doing that. No way. And he did. And gradually, the relationship, the dynamic changed. They have, from what I can tell, I don't know, but from the outside looking in, they have a pretty solid relationship now, all things
Totally.
considered. So
Totally.
I think a lot of this is in your hands. Again, I feel like I am speaking a little bit from ignorance, but maybe I'm giving you a position that allows you to see it differently than you currently are. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I hope that's the case.
The other thought that came to mind, so these are teenagers, and although an ideal state is that, mom's teaching them the importance of spirituality, and you are as well, they're teenagers, meaning they're going to school and getting the opposite of what you're being given them. They're getting the opposite from other kids already. This is a great age for them to start owning whatever it is around spirituality.
Yeah.
And so be careful, right? Don't demonize mom. But when daughter comes and says, oh, mom was criticizing me for wanting to go to church, use it. Go, oh, interesting. So why do you go to church? Why do you think that's important enough to want to go, even though that mom doesn't want to go? How do I support you in you owning this for yourself? So they're at an age that you can do this anyway. So coach up and realize that, hey, they live in the world. And the world's going to be fighting against all these great principles that you're trying to teach them anyway. So help them and guide them, and don't do that. You demonizing mom or criticizing her for seeing things differently is not going to help them. And one last thought I had that I think is really critical, that I think we overlook a lot. Your kids, when we criticize their parent, either way, you're criticizing your child. Who they are is their mother. And they will identify as the daughter of that woman, or the son or the son of their dad. And there's a special bond there, whether you like it or not. And so be very, very careful. And kids will associate your discontent for their parent as discontent for them. So honor their parent by honoring them. Make sure that you're not speaking ill, and be an adult and help them work through their own process, and ask them how they feel about things, and just help guide those waters.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point about a reflection of them, but also you're mocking their love for them, right? So if you say, hey, that she's a bitch and she's this and she's that, well, your daughter or your son loves their mother. And so now you say that, it's like you're mocking the fact that your daughter or son loves their mother. Like you're saying that, like you're diminishing how they feel. There's another silver lining here, I think, too. Does he have sons or daughters? I don't know if he said that.
There's definitely a daughter, because he said that his daughter got some criticizing from mom, but that's all I know.
You know what? Your daughter's talking to you. Like she's relaying whatever mom said. She's brought that to you and she's talking to you. That's awesome. That means she values your relationship. Because if she didn't, she would just take it to heart and she wouldn't say anything about it. She wouldn't share it. Something right is going on here. She's opening up to you. She's talking to you. And you said it, Kip. You said, how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts? Not, well, mom's a bitch and she doesn't know. This is how you do it.
Totally.
It's like, oh, she did. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. What did you say? What do you think about it? How do you feel about that? And she might say, well, I think mom's a bitch. You're like, oh, well, hold on. And now you defend, right?
Let's have some empathy.
Is she, or is she seeing this from a different perspective? And now, you don't want to take mom's side. Like, I'm not saying that, but there's really an opportunity to just ask some really profound questions here. But I would treat this as a win. She's talking, at least one of your daughters is talking with you about it. And that's awesome.
Totally, totally. And you alluded to this earlier about dropping them off on time and building that deposit. This just illustrates that we have to bring our A game. You have to be the light on the hill. We do this sometimes. I do this, right? When we're married, we go like, I'm going to double down and focus at work, and my wife's taking the reins in these other areas, and I get checked out, right? You can't do that. You can't do that as a divorced parent, right? You have to like bring your A game, and that spiritual environment that you want to create in your home has to be on point, and you got to do it really, really well.
You can't even do it as a married parent, because if you do it as a married parent, then you'll be a divorced parent, like my situation.
Yeah.
So, be on your A game if you're a divorced parent.
But the stakes are even higher, right? Like
be an A game parent when you're married, so you don't get into this situation. And that's frankly a lot of what happened in my situation. Dialed in on the business, the finance stuff, and not dialed in on the relational family marriage stuff. And here we are. It's the natural, inevitable outcome of that. So there's moments, there's opportunities. And I look at them as opportunities, whether it's with a relationship with your ex or a relationship at work, or man, just like, let's just do what we say we're going to do. We say we're going to drop them off at 3, drop them off at 3. You say you're going to check in on the house when they're out of town, do that. You say you're going to bring them by, or you're going to whatever. And it's not because you want to prove to her that you're doing it right. That's not the motive. The motive is doing the right thing, because that's what men do. That's what we do. And I'm not saying we don't falter. I have, okay? So maybe I'm in no position to tell you, but I think I am, because I'm trying to do it right where I didn't do it right before.
Yeah, totally.
All right. We got some additional questions. Let's have those for reserve for next week, Kip.
Sounds good.
And we'll go from there. So guys, right now I've got a lot of emails on the battle planners and inserts for the battle planners when those are going to be available. I just made a big order of those. So I think I'm going to do a pre-sale on those just to get them out, and you guys, because they'll go quick. So look for that in the next couple of days. That'll be at store.orderofman.com. Outside of that, we have our Battle Ready program. So 30 days to Battle Ready will help you address a lot of these questions that got asked here today. And you can check that out at orderofman.com/battle ready. Anything else, Kip?
No, just obviously the connection with you on the socials at Ryan Mickler, and just share, right? Let's keep the growth of the the movement going.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll be back later on Friday. Until then, let's go out there and take action, become the men we are meant to be.